Oh, when I cover advantages, I'm comparing coal to other sources of energy that produce the same outcome coal does. So what am I comparing? What's the outcome of coal? What's coal's number one use? Electricity. So when I say what's an advantage to coal, I'm saying what's an advantage to coal producing electricity over other things that produce electricity. Yes? Yeah. Which you haven't even learned about, but these are the advantages of coal in general. What do you think this picture represents? Yes. Coal is the most abundant of all the fossil fuels. The reserves of coal will last hundreds of years. Seems like a lot, but realistically, your children's children will definitely start to see life without the possibility of coal. So, I mean, it's going to happen. The good news is this. We got the most. We literally control this market by a lot, right? Yeah, for being, yeah. No, sometimes when you look at fossil fuel distribution, you're like, how do they have that, right? We have a lot of coal, luckily. And now we have a lot of unconventional petroleum, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that makes us equally strong in that capacity. What else are advantages to coal? It's cheap. It's actually a pretty cheap fossil fuel. I wouldn't say it's like inexpensive, but energy production is pretty cheap.
Like compared to the other ones?
It's compared to producing electricity in general. So we can't say other fossil fuels because we don't use other fossil fuels to produce electricity, right? So if we use coal to produce electricity in comparison to other things that produce electricity, it's relatively cheap. Okay? What else? Heat. This is definitely the biggest advantage. Coal is the highest heat producer. That's why it's the only fossil fuel that we use to produce electricity. Because it takes a lot of heat to produce what? This is what we learned yesterday. It takes a lot of heat, Nick, to produce what? Steam. Which what? Spins a turbine, which is attached to the generator to send an electric current. The more steam, the more motion of the turbine, the more electric current.
But if we use coal for everything, then like do they use like little amounts of coal? Because like in my mind, like maybe
it's well-developed technology. It works. It's a no-brainer. So what are my disadvantages?
It releases fossil fuels.
It is a fossil fuel. We're talking about coal. In comparison to all other fossil fuels or any other thing that produces electricity, coal is the what? Look at this picture.
Like pollution?
The most pollution. It's what we call the dirtiest fossil fuel or the dirtiest thing to produce electricity of all sources.
What comes out of those things? Like what is that?
That is called flue gas, which I'm going to show you. But when we burn coal, what's produced? Sulfur. A lot of sulfur, a lot of carbon dioxide. More than any other fossil fuel, it produces the most amounts of these two things. And that smoke that you see coming out of industrial factories, that smoke is called flue gas. Then you have to know that. All right. Disadvantages to coal, all mining. I'm not going to go over them. Mining. You can't read it because I'm not going over it. It says acid drainage, but you're going over the disadvantages to mining. And especially when mining for coal, acid drainage is going to be one of them. I hope you have that in your presentations because acid is a particle that is released from coal. I mean, coal is full of acid because it has sulfur, and those particles stay on land in mining sites and they cause acid drainage. I'm not going to talk about any of these things though. Acid drainage is the only thing. I am going to talk about this. So somebody in my last class said, why is sulfur such a problem? Don't we clean coal now and get rid of sulfur? We do. And I could tell you that I've been, again, teaching this class forever, and it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I started teaching about clean coal technology. Because it's relatively new, okay? Oh. So why do we clean coal, people? What are we trying to get rid of?
Sulfur.
Sulfur for sure. What else?
A mess.
Huh? No. I mean, I guess. I'm going to say yes. What else? Carbon dioxide. What else? What else is released from burning of fossil fuels? Say it. No. Particulate matter, a lot. See it all over the slide. What else? Nitrous oxide, people. We're going to get rid of carbon dioxide, sulfur oxide, nitrous oxide, and minerals that are found, bless you, in. There's 2 ways to clean coal before you burn, and then there's 2 ways to clean coal during burning, I would say. So before you burn, how do we clean things normally? Wash it. Good. So we don't use soap, but water. And remember when we talked about water use, what's number 1 water use? Agriculture. What's number 2?
Industry.
What's the number 1 use of water in the industry?
Cleaning.
No. Number 1. We just talked about it yesterday.
Agriculture.
Come on, people. What did we talk about yesterday? What did we talk about yesterday? The electric power plant uses water. Second most use is cleaning. Remember, sanitation. So it all kind of comes together is what I'm trying to tell you. So we remove unwanted minerals so that there's not an excess amount of particulate matter being released into the atmosphere during the burning. Okay? They literally wash it.
No, what do they do with like the stuff that's
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not going to answer that.
Acid drainage.
Because there's honestly, those are great questions. You're going to ask the same question about carbon storage. What do we do with it? Until we don't have to know that, I'm not even going to teach it, right? Okay? But we collect it. It's like ash, right?
Ash.
And then they do things with it. Sometimes they make products from it, sell it. Okay? In this case, you have to know what we're doing. Because syngas is basically a pre-burning method to reduce, because it gets cleaner if you go from solid to gas. So they convert it to gas or liquid, believe it or not. It could be syngas or liquid synthetic gas, still syngas. But they make it so that the emissions are reduced when burned. That's what this whole process is about. Burn coal, we use wet scrubbers, and we mix the flue gas with limestone. Why do you think we do that? What's limestone?
Carbon dioxide.
Not absorb. It's a base. So it's going to neutralize the acid. That's the point. Underline the word limestone and put base. Because when we learned about acid deposition, we learned that you could add limestone to a body of water to neutralize the body of water. That was one of your test questions. We also learned that limestone forms when it reacts with carbon dioxide and calcium, which is a base. When carbon dioxide reacts with water, it forms an acid, okay? In this case, you have to know what the byproduct is, which is gypsum. You have to know that that is made during this process, which kind of makes people say, okay, I'll invest in this clean coal technology because I'm going to remove sulfur dioxide emissions, which I'm limited to how much I could produce, and I'm going to get a product at the end that I could sell, okay? That should say wall board, people. So it's like what you use to build walls in your home is plaster and wall board. All right, the last thing, and again, I'm not going to tell you where it goes, but they do capture carbon dioxide. That's why it's called carbon capture storage. And then they actually put it back into earth in some way. And if you look at this, you see you have bottom ash, fly ash, but they're trying to recycle the carbon instead of putting it into the atmosphere. I'm done.